Mr. Gorrell Barnes has been forced to mediate, even though no Regency man would expect to involve himself in women's affairs.
The fact of the matter is, what is concerning me here is that there is 14 people in the house here, and that the biggest problem seems to be coming from the chaperones. Mrs. Hammond and Mrs. Rogers seem to be one side, and you and Lady Devonport seem to be another side.
Not willingly.
No, we're not willingly, but this is how I see it. What I would like to do is if you two can sort out your differences between you in a...
I'm not going to be spoken to like that in public.
Well, fine.
I'm afraid.
OK, well, fair enough. I'm not taking sides with anybody here, because I just would like you to sort it out, OK? And I think that if you can't both...
It is not my job.
Can I finish?
Yes.
Can I finish? If you can't both be adult about this and try and sort this out, if you don't get on with each other, avoid each other.
I'm willing to do that. Absolutely. I am willing to avoid Mrs. Rogers 100%.
If you're going to avoid Mrs. Rogers 100%, Mrs. Enright, then you may as well not be here.
Would you like me to volunteer to leave? Is that what you would actually like?
No, that's not what I'm saying. It's not a question of volunteering, but it's a question of whether or not we can just try and get on with each other and perhaps work out the differences. Because it's, you know...
But we can only do that if Mrs. Rogers and I talk together.
Well, that's what I'd like you to do.
I'm willing to make that attempt.
OK.
I will go for a walk now with Mrs. Rogers and attempt to both of us put our cards on the table and sort it out.
Well, I'd quite like an apology, I'm afraid. I've never been spoken to like that in my life, and I think I deserve an apology.
Do you feel that you were outspoken to Mrs. Rogers and perhaps slightly too harsh?
I feel I need time to consider that, and I feel that apologies may be due on both sides.
OK.
But you did hear...
The chaperones who are here to do a job, to get their charges married. Yeah, that's what they've come here for. If they're not going to do their job properly, then I might as well ask them to leave, because they haven't done it and they've given up on what they're here to do. So, quite frankly, there's no point. They're useless.
Am I going to sit down somewhere? You're right.
I've got to go and have a walk with her and talk to her.
Oh, no, you don't.
This is I've got to do.
Well, you don't have to yet, because we're so upset.
Perhaps we could have a duel. That's a good idea. If Mrs. Rogers and Mrs. Enright have a duel, one of them dies, sorted.
Mrs. Rogers takes to her bed. She's waiting for an apology.
Underneath the tree.
Captain Glover has planned an afternoon to commemorate the Battle of Trafalgar with a nautical picnic of salt pork washed down with rum and fresh lime.
I'm going to introduce you to a distant relative of mine, Captain Blackwood. There's the gentleman himself.
Looks like you, actually.
Yeah. You're the same now.
You see the curly hair there?
Right arm. You
I
should
can really see the resemblance. And look to your left. Yes.
Ah, interesting.
My hair isn't quite that grey yet, but I'm working on it. I have a letter here from Admiral Nelson to Captain Blackwood giving instructions to keep an eye on the fleet. So as I pass that round, I'll read out... Actually, that's the genuine letter.
No way. Wow.
So I'll pass this round.
That's the real thing.
This is the real thing. No. To Captain the Honourable Henry Blackwood, HM ship Aurelius. From the Victory, October 9th, 1805 AM. Cadiz due east, 19 leagues. My dear sir, many thanks for your letter of yesterday. Let us have them out. He's looking for a battle here. In short, watch all points and all winds and weathers, for I shall depend upon you. Be assured I am ever and always yours, Nelson and Bronte.
At the house, Mrs. Rogers finally receives an apology from Mrs. Enright.
We have had an éclaircissement and all kissed and made up and become friends. Far better understanding of each other.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm really pleased.
Yes, so am
It's time for the Battle of Trafalgar to commence. Fought off the coast of Spain in 1805, it was Britain's most decisive sea victory.
Can we have the British team on this side, please? British, British, and the French.
Yeah. Give it these fox legs, give us all a laugh.
The battle is drawn.
Beef, eh?
It's basically like chess. Say you're there, you can do that. and then you get a shot.
OK, now we're going for the key.
We're going for
it.
Well done, Mr.
The French have a shot. Come on.
Bah.
Higher, further back.
Down.
Level
down.
towards your head.
Yeah, down, like that. Down. Left higher, right arm down.
Left higher, right arm down.
Down. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah! Excellent. Vive la France!
Blast the French. The English have lost 2 ships.
They've lost 2 ships.
The French have lost none.
Yeah. So it looks like we're going to win, which is a slight problem, as we didn't.
Damn Frenchies.
Damn Frenchies, sir.
It may look like the French are winning, but on the day, Admiral Lord Nelson had a brilliant plan.
Going for the big one, yeah?
Yes, for the big one.
Traditionally, ships would draw alongside. But in an unprecedented move, Nelson's fleet attacked the enemy at right angles. The French and Spanish forces were unable to regroup.
Oh.
Despite being heavily outnumbered, the English shattered the enemy's fleet of 33 men of war.
Guys.
Make it spectacular.
The victory cost Nelson his life, but it secured Britain's supremacy at sea for the next 100 years.
Britannia rules the waves. Britain never, never, never shall be swayed.
After the battle, Miss Hopkins breaks Regency protocol to speak alone with Mr. Everett. At one time, they were close. It would have been a good match, her new wealth and his old family connections. But when musician Mr. Carrington came along, everything changed. He had neither status nor fortune, but Miss Hopkins was smitten. This caused a serious rift between her and Mr. Everett. And they haven't spoken till now.
I had a wonderful chat with Miss Hopkins. It was really quite nice. It was, 2 of us sort of had these sort of storm clouds above our heads, and it as if it had rained, and suddenly the sun had come out, and there was a sort of, it was just a nice feeling. We found our friendship again. We just talked really pleasant to each other. We had a really nice, we just giggled and laughed, and the cloud that has been sort of hanging over me over that whole sort of thing just sort of lifted, you know.
We had a fantastic conversation on the law, and I don't know how much he told, but he actually proposed to me and I declined him. And I'm sure he won't have told you that, and I'm really sorry, but I do think it's important that you know that. I just couldn't do it. I do like Mr. Carrington an awful lot, but I know the feeling is not reciprocated. Is that my fault that I've gone for the wrong men, that I've kind of turned the really, really nice guys down in favour of kind of having somebody who's maybe wrong for me? So it has been kind of quite a confusing time because I've not maybe allowed myself to explore any relationship with Mr. Everett, and if I have hurt him, I am so sorry. And maybe I have been wrong. But sometimes, you know, maybe this is the lesson that I needed to learn in my life. Don't always listen to your heart. Sometimes listen to your head.